Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sprechen Disc Golf, the most reliable Pro Tour focused podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Coleman, and on today's episode, we are going to be reviewing the Music City Open, brought to you by Lone Star Discs. If you haven't already, go ahead and check us out on our social media platforms on Instagram and Twitter, and on our home website, sprechensports.com. More about that later in the episode. So diving right in, we had the Music City Open last week. First year of this being our first year back on the full Pro Tour, and I was extremely happy with how the event went. I thought it was fun. I thought the course challenged the players, and I thought it did what was intended of it. If you didn't watch it, on MPO we had Simon Lizotte taking it down, followed up by AB, Anthony Barella in second, and a three-way tied for third with Calvin Heimberg, Gannon Buhr, and Chris Dickerson. On FPO, it was Kristen Tatar in first, with Jennifer Allen and Macy Villa-Diaz tying for second. If you couldn't tell on the entire list, we had two Tennessee natives in Chris Dickerson and Macy Villa-Diaz sneaking up onto the podium there. On MPO, it is a pretty large podium with 5 guys getting on there. But when you have such a tight field, such a group field, that's going to happen. So kind of going through what was important for each of these players, how they won, or how they did well. Simon Lizotte finished with 8 birdies in a row from the chase card, third in birdie percentage. He just really didn't bogey. He only bogeyed twice on the event. No doubles, triples, anything like that. Just really stayed away from trouble. Anthony Barella, he was second in birdie percentage, but he only putted 75% from C1X, 70th overall in the field. He was first in parked percentage, however. Calvin Heimberg led in strokes gained putting. He just struggled to find the fairway a little bit, which is rare for him, so look for Calvin to kind of jump back on that train next week. Gannon Buhr, he struggled putting 72% C1X. He was first in birdie percentage, just too many bogeys. And then Chris Dickerson, he fit the fairways, but he couldn't really get going in round 3 especially. It was kind of like rounds 1 and 2 were solid. He just really couldn't get that going in round 3 early enough to be really in contention at the end. And especially from circle 2 in round 3, he looked lost. He had I think 7 circle 2 putts, makeable circle 2 putts in round 3, and he wasn't able to cash any of them. And if you watched round 1 and round 2, you know that they were looking automatic for a bit. He looked cold from the field, just didn't ever really look like he was going to win it in round 3. On the FPO side, Kristen Tatar, she's back. The one spot she looked a little bit shaky was forehands. We've seen a little bit of some early release bugs on that lately. But she was back kind of everything else. She was first in birdie percentage. She was high in pretty much everything else. Round 3, she putted 100% from C1X. She was on it this weekend. She was her old self. She's back. Kristen Tatar, look out, everybody. Alrighty, tied for second, we have Jennifer Allen. Kind of interesting that she really thrived on this course. Her and Simon both, kind of the old distance throwers, kind of back at it. She really just didn't blow up. She avoided disaster. She mitigated risk really well, and she did a good job kind of taking her scores where she could get them. Tied for second with Macy Villa-Diaz. Macy Villa-Diaz had 2 double bogeys in the first 4 holes of round 3, kind of set her off to that slow start, but she was getting into the circles well, had a pretty good event, and probably good to be on the podium in your home event. So that is Simon's second podium in a row now. Open at Austin and now Music City Open. Congrats to him. I mean, it's a tough to change sponsors, especially when you've been with Discmania for so long. So Simon is fully back. Congrats, third chase card winner in a row. We've had Kyle Klein, Gannon Buhr, and now Simon Lizotte, all from the chase card, taking it down this year, making a very, very good case for live disc golf to be the kind of new way forward. Jomez does not have the rights to show those guys fully throughout the event, and so we're not really getting to see him if you watch any post. But yeah, overall, course played really well, looked really tough, especially day one. Day one, it was playing really difficult with the weather. And that was good to see. You know, we saw guys going over par, guys going close to par, making it look tough out there. The other thing that was cool was the trophy. We had a Gibson guitar, I believe it was, as the trophy with Music City Open kind of burned into the bottom there. It was sick. You know, we've seen some of the other trophies we've been unhappy with. Worlds last year comes to mind. No unhappiness here. That was a sweet trophy, and I love to see that they're kind of putting this amount of thought into the event. So speaking of, you know, we're talking about 3 chase card winners in a row. Speaking of streaks, we got Mr. Calvin Heimberg with 6 podiums in a row in Elite Series or Majors, DGPT Elite Series or Majors. So that Silver Series does count, but 6 in a row. And he has looked phenomenal. I mean, he's looked, you know, even when he's not winning, he's having a bad day. He's still pushing himself into that top 3. And based on the struggles of guys like Macbeth, guys like McMahon, we can see that pushing up there is not easy. So let's go, Calvin. Keep it up. I love it. Anthony Barella kind of continues to look closer to a win, but he still just doesn't show that kind of killer instinct that he needs. He had quite a few chances to get that win, but just couldn't ever he couldn't make those longer C1 putts or edge of circle putts. But if he was hitting those a little bit better in round 3, we probably would have seen him in the win. Last but not least, from the storylines, we have Mr. James Proctor continues to push onto lead cards and find himself toward the top of the events. I mean, he has just been absolutely phenomenal this year. One of the top few players in the world, I think. And if you look at where he's at in the DGPT points standings, he is sitting very solidly in 3rd place right now, with just some phenomenal finishes. I mean, top 10s since Waco. Guys looked incredible, so good job, James Proctor. Looking at kind of a fun one, we got silent superstars. These are people that have been having a really solid year or maybe exceeding expectations that we haven't really been talking about. So starting off, we got Joel Freeman. He's gone 10th, or he's 11th at LVC, 10th at Waco, 2nd at Texas States, and now 9th at MCO. Consistently getting in that kind of top 15, top 10 range. Austin Turner, 5th at Texas State, 7th at MCO. He's back on tour now, so it's good to see the lefty is succeeding. Bradley Williams has gone 10th, 14th, 25th. I think he's having a solid start to the year. Ezra Aderhold has gone 2nd, 6th, 6th, and 11th, with that 11th place being arguably his best event. He was on lead card for final round, just a little bit of a blow up. Evelina Salonen has gone 7th and 6th now, and then Jennifer Allen has gone in the 2 events she's played 9th and 2nd. So shout out to those guys for kind of flying under the radar this year but having good starts to their season. Alrighty, last but not least, we have the power rankings update. I made some big moves, so bear with me. But on the MPO side, number 1, Calvin Heimberg, of course. Number 2, Gannon Burr. Number 3, Simon Lizotte. Those guys have all gone podium. Number 4, James Proctor. I'm done pretending he is a top, or pretending he's not a top player. He is a top 5 player in the world right now. He's playing like it. He's earned it. I was waiting to see if he's legit, and he is. So I'm gonna kind of take that label off of him of, you know, maybe fluke, maybe fraud. Nope, James Proctor's legit. He goes into my top 5. Number 5, we got Paul Macbeth. Number 5. Number 6, Kyle Klein. If Kyle Klein had a better event, he probably will jump Paul Macbeth. Number 7, Ricky Wysocki. Number 8, Eagle McMahon. Number 9, Ezra Aderhold. And number 10, Anthony Barella. Oh, I forgot to mention, Ricky was back. He played all 3 rounds, ended up taking down 8th place. So welcome back, Rick. It was good to have you. On FPO side, Kristen Tatar retains the number 1 spot. Then Katrina Allen, Missy Gannon, welcome to the top 5, Holland Hanley. And in 5th, we have Paige Pierce, who fell outside the top 25 this weekend. What a rough event from Paige Pierce. That was one of my predictions. Actually, let's go take a look at how my predictions fared in the event. I know Paige Pierce. I know that kind of prediction hit because obviously she had a rough event. But let's see how the rest of my predictions fared. So I had Heimberg, Dickerson, Burr as my top 3, and they actually all tied for 3rd. So pretty good there. Culver Dolan as my dark horse. Cole ended up getting 11th, so pretty good there as well. Overall, I'm happy with those MPO predictions. FPO, I had Kristen Tar winning, followed by Henna, Ella Hansen, and then Kat Mertz as my dark horse, and they all finished around top 15, so okay there. Bold predictions, I said Alden Harris gets close to a podium. Unfortunately, Alden Harris did not do me very proud this event. He ended up in a tie for 25th, shooting a pretty good last round to get there. Other predictions, I said Eagle McMahon is going to struggle mightily, which he sort of did. It wasn't like an outside the top 30 or anything, but he ended up in 18th, which is below his standards, so that was pretty good. And then, of course, I also said Paige Pierce will end up outside of the top 20 or inside the top 5. Well, she wasn't top 5, but she was outside the top 20, so two for 3 on the predictions, so let's go there. Sweet. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I will catch you guys in the next episode. Check out our home platform, spreckensports.com, where you can talk live with any other fans watching other live events in real time. I'm your host, as always, Zachary Coleman, and have a good one.